Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, something that I haven't discussed before. Today we're going to be taking a look at 3 cartoon conspiracy theories that, may or may not be true. Some of these have completely changed my perspective on the way I view the show. Others, on the other hand, seem a little far-fetched. Remember Recess? If you're at all like me, it was probably one of your favorite TV shows growing up. But what if I told you it has one of the darkest conspiracy theories I have ever heard? According to this theory, 3rd Street Elementary School is less of an operating schoolyard and more of a purgatory-esque playground for childlike ghosts. While this seems a little far-fetched, this theory has a bunch of ultra-violent, over-the-top ways of killing its main cast, ranging from heart failure to lethal bullying, and even, I quote, a career-ending sports injury that drove someone to suicide. It sounds a little crazy, but the part of this theory that I find the most amusing, a nod to the character design of the main gang, with apparently each main character representing recent American history in which they went to 3rd Street Elementary. TJ supposedly represents the Depression-era newsboy. Spinelli is a representation of the tougher-than-nails tomboys of World War II. Think League of Their Own meets Fight Club.
There's no crying! There's no crying in Fight Club!
Gus is a prime example of the military-industrial complex, obviously. Gus represents the U.S. post-World War II, the 1950s era. Gretchen Gundler supposedly represents the women's liberation movement of the late 1960s and early 1970s. I guess because she's smart? Mikey, being the supportive and forgiving one, is supposed to represent the Woodstock-era hippie. His peaceful nature and strong moral compass compared to that of his friends apparently makes him a hippie. Vince is the result of a post-Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman-era basketball phenomenon. And with his sick b-ball skills, I imagine he's supposed to represent the early 1990s, according to White Men Can't Jump. While this whole Recess conspiracy theory thing is somewhat amusing, I don't believe it for a second. It sounds more like a poorly written fan fiction to me than an actual narrative choice by the creators of the show. Let's talk about Phineas. Not that Phineas. The Dorito-headed creative middle schooler that always seems to know what to do that day. Ferb is his stepbrother, right? And Candace is supposedly his biological sister. While we certainly see the resemblance in both Candace and Phineas to their mother Linda, there is one striking difference in the designs of Linda and Candace and that of Phineas. Candace and Linda have very round heads. Phineas, on the other hand, has that awkwardly angular triangle head. Although Linda has since quieted down, now owning an antique store with Lawrence, she was once a pop star sensation known as Lindana. And according to this wild conspiracy theory, she lived a rather promiscuous tri-state area life. While this theory suggests that no one in particular is Candace's biological father, some fans speculate that Phineas's biological father is no other than the antagonist of the series, Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz. The only evidence of this is that Linda and Doofenshmirtz went on a date in an episode. But if my memory serves me correctly, it didn't end up going well. That being said, I can't deny that Doofenshmirtz and Phineas do have awkwardly similar shaped heads. I believe this theory is somewhat plausible, although very unlikely. If this theory is real, does this complicate things for Ferb and Vanessa? The final theory I'm going to discuss today, which inspired me to make this video in the first place, comes from a viral tweet 2 days ago that even has the creators of the show scratching their heads. In the iconic Simpsons two-parter, Who Shot Mr. Burns?, a number of Springfield residents gather around the dying Mr. Burns, one of which includes Krusty the Clown. Or so we think. When we last see Homer Simpson, he announces he is going to kill Mr. Burns and digs up his handgun. However, Homer is not in the crowd at all. Or so we think. In the second episode of this two-parter, it is revealed that Maggie is indeed the one who shot Mr. Burns. But that doesn't mean other people weren't trying, or rather contemplating, the death of Mr. Burns. Krusty's appearance here in the crowd is way off. At the end of the first episode in this two-parter, Krusty shows up late to a town hall meeting. As he has just gotten back from Reno, he is in an open-collared button-up shirt and shorts.
What the? Ugh.
Only a few moments later, after Mr. Burns is shot and a crowd starts to gather, Krusty is in his full show uniform. This theory suggests that Homer was inspired by Sideshow Bob's robbery of the Quickie Mart in Season 1, Episode 12, Krusty Gets Busted, where Sideshow Bob dresses as Krusty before committing a crime. It is here we realize that Krusty isn't actually at the crowd gathering scene, and it is instead Homer dressed up as Krusty the Clown. Homer dresses up as Krusty in another episode, Homer the Clown, where Homer goes to Krusty's Clown College. And while the resemblance between Krusty and Homer is definitely there, Krusty has a different mouth shape, a different nose shape, and many more bags under his eyes. The Krusty we see at the end of Who Shot Mr. Burns episode 1 has Homer's eyes, nose, and mouth shape. Coincidence? Well, show producer Bill Oakley seems to think so. He stated that this image is indeed Krusty, and that it may be an animation error as why he doesn't look like he normally does. Oakley even tried proving this theory wrong by digging through an old work computer and finding an animator's notes and clues document. The only possible note that would debunk this theory reads, "None of the key suspects, Homer, Bart, Lisa, Grandpa, Skinner, Willie, Smithers, Moe, Barney, or Tito Puente should be visible on the street or in the crowd at the end." You would think with all the attention to detail put into this episode, and the clues that the animators hid for fans to try to guess who done it, there would be a clear answer here, right? I'm sold. That looks a lot more like Homer dressed as Krusty than it does Krusty the Clown. I believe this conspiracy theory is right, and so does Homer.
I'm gonna get my revenge, and if I get caught, I'm pinning it on the baby like the time I shot Mr. Burns.
Well, thank you everyone for watching today's episode. Let me know what you think on these cartoon conspiracy theories in the comments section below. I'd love to discuss them more as there's more evidence and more information, and I'm sure we're going to hear from more producers and writers from the original run of The Simpsons. Also, if you're at all interested, be sure to follow our podcast. New episodes every Friday, link in the description below.